Assalamu alaikum. Hello everybody. Welcome back to another Saturday. If you are already subscribed, thank you. I appreciate you. If you are new, welcome to the family. In this video today, we are going to talk about personal statement. If you are new and you haven't seen my other videos, go ahead and check out the video about the overview of physician assistant profession, the video about my journey, the video about imposter syndrome, and welcome to the video about personal statement. So, personal statements are probably one of the hardest things that you do when you are a student. Whether it's for applying to grad school, like medical school, PA school, I don't know if business schools and law school, I don't know if you write personal statements for them, but if you do, this video will be helpful to you as well. Some of the tips that I'm going to give will also be helpful if you are just writing an essay for scholarship application or an internship, or like a lab research position within your university. The tips that I'm going to give you are going to help you with those as well. Specifically though, I'll be looking at my personal statements that I did for PA school, and I'll be, mentioning certain things or like wordings that I said to kind of show you, how you can paraphrase words to like capture the reader's attention. So what is personal statement? Personal statement is basically talking about yourself and explaining to the person that you're trying to get something from, right? If it's the school admission, you're trying to get them to accept you into the program. If it's for a scholarship, you're trying to get the scholarship. If it's for an internship, you're trying to get that internship. So you are trying to talk about yourself so that the people reading your application say, okay, we want to interview this person. So personal statements are the first step to getting an interview, because you will not be the only person applying, regardless of what it is. There are so many other people that would apply with you. Like for schools, for example, they get like thousands of applications. Some of the students have the same grade as you, some have the same, background as you. If they may be also first generation, they may come from underserved community, and a lot of in terms of like the technical stuff, it may be the same, but what sets you apart will be your story, because no two stories are the same. Even two siblings will not have the same exact story. So that's where the personal statements come in. That's literally your time to shine and show them what you're all about. So what is a good personal statement? For me, the personal statement that I wrote got me interviews to all the four schools that I applied to. It got me, when I was doing research position and at, my undergraduate, I got the interview. When I was, a McNair scholar, my personal statement got me an interview. Now, after the interview, whether I got the position or not, it's a different story. But they were strong enough to get me the interview. Okay, now let's get to the nitty-gritty aspect of personal statement. How do you write a good personal statement? A good personal statement should have a good introduction, a body, and then an ending. Your introduction is the first sentence that they're going to read, the first 2-3 sentences. Who is this person? It has to be a sentence that wants the reader to read more. Like, I want to see what they say in the next sentence, and I want to see what they say in the next sentence, and it has to, keep grabbing the attention. So your essay has to flow accordingly. You don't talk about, this, and then you jump over here, and then you jump back, and then you jump. So you don't want it to be chaotic so that it's hard for the reader to follow. You want a nice flowing essay. Now, that being said, what I'll do is I will not read my entire personal statement, because there are certain parts of my life that I don't want to share, with the world. Privacy, right? Everybody needs some privacy in their lives. But I will read kind of like the main things, like how did I start my essay, for example. When I edit personal statements, I edit at least, couple every cycle. And what I do is, most of the times, the thing that I change the most is the intro. That's one thing I have noticed, like the attention grabbing aspect. I will read it and I'm like, okay, if I am the admission panel, like, is this really strong enough? And what I do is I go ahead and I don't change the meaning, but I word it a certain way, or like I change it, like I paraphrase it in a different way to make it like really strong. And almost all the time, the people that I edit the essays for are impressed, and they're like, wow, really, I didn't think of it that way. Thank you. Saving them, space for more things to say. Sometimes it's easy to just talk, but remember, there are limits, there are word counts, and you don't want to go above those word counts. I believe for PA school, it's like 5,000 characters. I don't know what it is for other essays, for like application for other things, but there is word count and you don't want to go above the word count. And I always say it's better to go a little below the word count than to go above it. So let me read for you how my personal statement for PA school how I started it, okay? And this is, by the way, like the 7th draft, because I just edit to perfection almost. There's no such thing as perfection. But I try to get it as close to it as I can. For mine, like I started with, I come from a strict conservative family with distinct values and expectation, period. Like, distinct values, like what are those distinct values? I didn't say a whole lot, I just grabbed the attention. Now it makes the reader want to read more. My second sentence is, growing up in Arua, a small Kenyan town, I had to follow the spoken rules of my parents and the unspoken rules of my society. As a girl, my role was to become a good wife and a mother. Being able to attend school was God's favor upon me. And it truly was. You want your personal statement to be 100% authentic. Now, I was very fortunate. I was very lucky, but I was very blessed because I am the first girl in my family to go through school and all that. And I think the reason why is because I was with my brothers. I grew up with my brothers, and when my brothers went to school, I just went with them, and my parents, I had nobody else to play with at home, so they didn't question anything. But it was never a priority. Like, I was still expected to learn to cook, to clean, to run a house, and the goal was that I will get married as soon as I come of age. And I, to this day, consider my education as a true, blessing from God, and I never take it for granted because I know a lot of people from where I come from don't have that opportunity. So that being said, like, I stopped at, was God's favor upon me. That's like my first paragraph, because you don't want to say a whole lot. Your first paragraph should be about your past, like your childhood, or, just a little bit of where you come from. Remember, like in my first paragraph, I didn't say, oh, I always wanted to help people, or I always wanted to go into medicine. I didn't start with that. You start with something little about yourself, whether it's your childhood, or whether it's who you played with as a kid, or whether it's something your dad told you or your family member told you, like something meaningful that would create a story. Like, you start with that. And then my second paragraph starts with, the primary school I attended and the only hospital in town were located a couple of blocks away from each other. So I am now getting you into why medicine, right? Like, I told you where I came from, and then I told you the values of where I came from, and that education was a favor for me. Now my education and going into the medicine, it's like a nice transition, right? My education was a favor, now the school and the hospital were nearby, and now that means, okay, that's where the medicine part comes in. So that hospital, there's a reason why I mentioned it. There's something in that hospital that is meaningful to my story, right? So I am still in the intro section of the essay. The intro is your past. What happened? So 3 parts. Intro, body, and ending is what I said. Intro, your very past, what happened. So your body will be, what have you done to follow that dream? You want to get into the school, you want to get the internship, what did you do? And then the ending will be, what are you going to do after? Right? Does that make sense? So still in my intro, now the school and the hospital were nearby. So I go into, we had this huge cholera outbreak when I was younger, and that's the story, you know, that's when my passion for medicine, you know, like initially started. That's when I knew, oh my God, like I do want to do this. So now where I stopped when I was reading it, I told you guys, the school and the hospital were a couple of blocks away from each other. So one day I went to the hospital when I heard about a disease that had struck a few people in our town. And then the scene from that day is still engraved in my heart. My soul was filled with the pain of the people suffering as I witnessed the one doctor doing his best to give them all aid. At the time, I thought he was a doctor, but to me, he was a doctor. Later, I realized that he was actually a nurse, and we had like a nurse that was taking care of our whole, you know, small town, and he was just so selfless. And I remember like I just used to love going to the hospital and like hanging out with him and just like saying hi to the people there. And I was like a little kid, so I'll just like crawl, you know, leave school, go through the hospital, you know, every opportunity that I got. Whenever my siblings were going to the hospital or like my parents were taking them to the hospital, I'll always go with them. I just loved being in that environment. So in my essay, you know, I talked about how being there kind of, you know, like sparked the interest in me. Like I wanted to be in medicine, I wanted to help people, I wanted to be a part of that. And most importantly, I wanted to be like him. I wanted to be able to help the people and make a difference, and just really, I just wanted to be him. That's just, in short, when I was younger, that's what I wanted. And since then, you know, my love and passion for medicine continued. So in your case, you know, if it's medical school, if it's, you know, a research position, for example, you can talk about, you know, before and then being a student, and if it was like a biology that you loved, you can talk about how taking the class and really enjoying that topic sparked an interest in you where you wanted to learn more about that subject and you wanted to do the research, and so you just built on that. So for me, remember, we're still in the intro. This is still like your interest started. Then I go into, since then, you know, since that happened, the thought of continuing the norms and beliefs of my society never crossed my mind, no matter how many times I was reminded. As a child, then the only thing I wished for was to gain the knowledge to one day become a healthcare provider, and change the state that my community was in. And that's kind of what I just said earlier, but more like in a sentence format. So intro, right? Now my spark has been, the fire has started, my passion has, you know, begun. Now what did I do about it? You can dream, but unless you do something about that dream, nothing is going to happen. It's just going to stay a dream, right? So what did you do? This part, the body, is really where you shine the most, I think. It's your experiences, it's what you have done in order to show them that you're truly passionate about this and you do deserve it. So a lot of the mistakes people make is, you know, in the body, they will say something like, oh, you know, once I realized that I wanted to do this. For example, if it's medicine, again, I keep referencing medicine because I am from, of course, you know, PA, right? So they will say like, I volunteered at a hospital and I volunteered in this other place and I, you know, did this thing, and it's okay, but really that just tells me that you did things, like you volunteered at a hospital. So what did you really do at the hospital? Like, you can be a volunteer, but your job can just be, you know, like opening the doors for people, or, you know, something that is not like, I mean, holding doors for people is a great thing. It's a really good, but does it apply to what you're trying to get? Does that make it? Like, you want to be explicit in a way. You want to be you want to create an image in their head, like very vivid image. You don't want to leave any room for imagination. You want it to be very clear. So an example of my body, like, let me see. So my literally 1, 2, 3, on the 4th paragraph is where the body starts. So the first 3 paragraphs were the intro. And I did not go above the limit. My paragraphs are literally like maybe 7 lines to 8 lines max. You don't need to write like a paragraph that's like half a page that can just keep dragging. You can write really short, concise paragraphs. So some of the things in the body of my essay were, okay, so my second volunteer work also assured me how priceless it is to give service to an alien individual, and it made me appreciate the healthy body that God gave me as I helped nurses in the hospital. I remember the peace that I felt as I helped a woman from a background such as mine with limited English who would occasionally mistake me for a doctor and give me encouragement upon realizing that I was aspiring to be a physician assistant. So now, you know, like you can see the picture, like you can picture me in the hospital with the nurse, with that patient give me that encouragement, with that, you know, spark and that happiness in my face. Like I'm giving you example. And then I talk about my job as an electronic medical record tutor for physicians during the Epic Go Lives also gave me an insight on different specialties such as surgery, OBGYN, primary care, cardiology, and oncology. Working closely with multiple physicians reaffirmed that I am ready for this career. So those are like examples. Like I talk about like specific things I did, specific things I interacted with. So your body, again, in summary, your body, you can talk about specific things that you did. You can talk about your challenges, for example, like challenges that you have faced, that you have overcame, that would be in the body. Make sure though, when you're talking about it, I find it helpful when, you know, the individual talks about the challenges first and how they overcame it, and then they go into examples of the things that they have done that made them realize that this is really what they wanted to do. Again, the essay, you're grabbing their attention initially, you're telling them about your background, where the spark started, then you go into specific things that you did that made you realize that you truly want to be in that place, in that scholar, you know, get that scholarship, in that internship, in that school. Because one thing schools don't want is for somebody to not be 100% sure that they want that. Because guess what? They will, if you got that seat, you're taking it away from somebody that truly wanted that, or somebody that truly deserved that. If you're not 100% sure, the chance of you quitting that thing is higher than somebody that is 100% sure, that has worked for it all along and put in, you know, years of hard work. So that is the body. That's where you put all of that. The ending, you know, again, you transition from that, you know, what you have been doing. The first sentence of your ending can start with, again, your endings doesn't have to be a paragraph. It can be 2 paragraphs, it can be 3 paragraphs, where you talk about what are you going to do in the future. After you have accomplished that, what are you going to do with that accomplishment? What are you going to do with that scholarship that you got? This money will help me pursue my education, or it will help me fund this research, which will make this difference in this group of people, or it will make this difference in this organization, or it will make this difference in my life. You know, like they want to know, what are you going to do with that? So for mine, my ending, just a little section about my ending is, you know, my goal is to become a primary care physician assistant. I will make sure people don't suffer like those I saw as a young child in my small African town. While white people still succumb to diseases because of lack of sanitation and proper medical care, I intend to make an impact by supporting the underserved and a small town like the one that I come from. With the help of my future colleagues, both locally and globally, I will bring my experience with diversity to my medical community and give better care to those who would otherwise face cultural and communication challenges. Very clear. Like, you don't have any question about my goal. I don't leave anything to the imagination. I did not. Like, if I said, oh, and then I will make a difference in the medical community, that says nothing. Like, what difference? Just by showing up? Just by being there? Like, how am I? Like, you want to, like, how? What? Like, people really want to see your future goal, your dream. They want to be able to picture it. And giving people, you know, vivid like pictures makes them drawn to you, like makes them want to get to know you more. They want to hear more. They want to hear your story more. They want to see what difference you're going to make in, you know, in this world, basically. So, and then there's another sentence that I wanted to share where I say, I will also be someone who can inspire young girls, especially those from backgrounds such as mine, who may be discouraged when the road gets rough. I will tell them to never give up on their dreams, no matter what happens. An invaluable piece of advice my father once gave me. So, and it's true, like, you know, my dad told me, you know, keep going, keep going. I just remember my dad telling me, like, for those that work so hard that people wonder where you came from. Like, they say, who is this person? Who is this person that doesn't give up? Who is this person that is just going, and like, that is so passionate about what they're doing? And I still, you know, remember that. Allah yarham, my dad passed away January, you know, 2021, but I was fortunate enough that he actually saw me accomplish what I did, and that I took his advice, and I put that in there because it shows them that somebody very important told me an advice that I took to heart, that helped me, and I'm going to share that with the next generation. So just me, you know, the reason why I gave you these little bits and pieces from my essay is so that you can see how the way you say something and the way you word something makes a difference. When you write something, words are powerful. People, by reading your essay, they can see how passionate you are about something. So you want your essay to have a soul, like you want your essay to be alive. You don't want a dry essay. You don't want flat words. You want strong words that really truly express your emotions. That being said, you don't have to use big words from the dictionary that nobody understands, or people have to constantly Google to see what they mean. You can use plain language and still put your point across. That is how you write a strong letter. Again, in summary, you have the intro, you have the body, and you have the ending. Your intro is where you capture the reader's attention. You start with, you know, a sentence or two that makes them want to read more about you, and you transition into the next thing and you explain it. You don't just mention things, you don't bullet point things, you explain things. Like, I did, this was me, this is what happened, this is what sparked my interest, and this is what I did to nurture that interest, that dream, that passion, that this is what I did to grow that passion, and now I'm here and I have this big dream and I want you to help me accomplish. That's what you're essentially saying. But then you tell them, if you help me accomplish this dream, this goal, this is what I'm going to do with it. And that's, you know, how you end your essay. You want to make sure your essay ends nicely, starts nicely, flows nicely, and ends nicely. Once you're done, you send your essay to at least 4 people to edit. And what I like to do is, what I encourage people to do is send it to one person first and see how they edit it. This is where starting to write your essay very earlier help comes in, you know, handy, so that you do have time to edit and send it to other people. Like, if you are writing your essay a month before it's due, you don't have enough time to really digest your own essay and send it to people, you know, to review and edit for you. I would honestly recommend you start as early as possible, even a year in advance. Like, I started mine 2 years, I think, in advance. That gave me plenty of time to change things and have other people look at it and read it. So I say minimum 4 people. You want somebody from the field that you're in to read it. If you're in medicine, have somebody from medical background. If you're going to law school, somebody from law, law background. If you are just doing, you know, something for academia, like education, somebody from that background, somebody that, you know, really knows what's happening in that field that you're trying to go into or has an idea. Then you send it to somebody that's not from that field. So totally opposite, right? Like, if you're going to medicine, you can send it to somebody from like business or something. So you can see how they understood your essay. You want everybody to understand your essay. I said this in my previous video. The people on the admission committee, some of them are not from the background of where you're applying to. If you're applying to med school, some of them may not be from medical background. Some of them, if you're applying to law school, they may not be from law background. So you want your essay to be clear to everybody. So, and I would say have a high schooler read it, because if a young person reads it, they, you know, if they don't get something, they will just be like, I don't know what this means. Or like, you know, they're usually very honest. The younger people, they'll just give it to you as it is. And I always like made sure, you know, my niece who was in high school read my essays, because if she understood it, it was clear to me that everybody else will get it. So minimum of 4, maximum of as many as you want. The final advice I'll give you is, if something is truly important to you and you put it in your essay and one of your editors took it out, this is your story, you can put it back in. You don't take it out. If you honestly feel like this is a very good point that I want people to hear and it's not important to somebody else and they take it out of your essay, go ahead and put it back in. So those are the tips that I have for you in terms of writing a personal statement. I really hope this was helpful. I hope you benefited from me sharing bits and pieces of my essay. And go ahead and write that awesome personal statement. If you're applying to school, I wish you all the best. I know the Casper cycle is open right now. You guys are going to do awesome. I really, really pray that you get accepted to your top school. If you are applying for scholarships and internships, I really hope you get it. Your work, you know, you put in the work and you deserve to get whatever you're applying for. And I really appreciate you guys tuning in and listening to this and learning from it. I love reading your comments. You guys are so kind. I love you guys, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. If you learned something from this video and you haven't subscribed already, go ahead and subscribe. If you know somebody that may benefit from this, go ahead and share with them. Let's, make this a community channel where everybody puts, benefits from it. Okay, bye.